Okay, let's quickly take a look at the first topic for discussion, where the rising case of ritual killing has been so alarming that the House of Reps had to give a mention to it, where they've called for the declaration of a national emergency in the country. This formed part of the resolution reached by the lawmakers on a motion of urgent public importance entitled "Need to Curb the Rising Trend of Ritual Killings in Nigeria." Toby Okechukwu, the minority leader of the House, moved the motion during Wednesday's plenary at the lower chamber of the National Assembly in Abuja. The motion comes amid the incessant killing of innocent Nigerians for ritual purposes, with one of the latest being the murder of Sophia Tokeowo in Ogun State. Worried by the trend, the lawmakers called on the National Orientation Agency, NOA, as well as parents, heads of schools, religious leaders, and the media to undertake a campaign to change the negative narrative bedeviling the society. They resolved to call on the Executive Director of the National Film and Video Censors Board to rise to the mandate of the agency as the clearinghouse of all movies produced in the country. Now, ritual killing isn't exactly new in our society. I mean, it's been it's been on for as long as Africans or humans, as it were, have existed. But why do you think it's all of a sudden on the rise? I mean, the past 1 year, the number of ritual killings it's quadrupled. What do you think is responsible for that?
Well, thank you, Mr. Ofem. Just like you have said, ritual killings using human beings for ritual is an age-old thing, and it's not peculiar to Africans alone. Definitely. When you look at the Bible and the Quran, you will have seen in certain places we are very prominent prophets and religious people who are said to have been commanded by God to either use their children or to use human beings, as it were, for rituals. So Africans are not left out of that conceptual framework. In fact, when we were young, in those days when we were going to the farm or going to fetch water in the streams and all that, our parents would always warn us to beware of strange people who might want to kidnap us for ritual purposes. As to your question, as regards why it is on the rise, the answers are many. I want to start from an historical perspective. I observed that in the past, you and I will know that in our society there were certain values that people place premium on, such that if your child comes home with a pencil that you never bought for him, you would ask questions as a parent how he got those pencils. Today, no parents bother to monitor what their children own and what he doesn't know. And in fact, if the children is not catching up with his peers in terms of acquisition of material wealth and what have you, the parents will begin to query him as regards whether he still had his brain in his head. And that's why you'll find out that some parents now even will buy a laptop for their children to go and learn how to do Yahoo Yahoo and Yahoo Plus. And Yahoo Plus is human rituals plus the practical computer aspect of it that they now use to swindle people of their phone. Not too long ago, too, you saw the obduracy, the temerity of certain women who formed Yahoo Yahoo Parents Mothers Association and went to approach the chairman of EFCC, Magu, to let their children alone and allow them to practice their vocation without let or hindrance. And they did that in the open. Nobody has ever arrested those women and prosecuted them for aiding and abetting all this. Of course, too, you also saw the activities of the musicians, especially making waves of recent. As soon as they bought a house in Lekki or VGC or VIO, they bought a Phantom Rolls Royce. And they show their wealth on social media. And show it on social media. Also look at most of our films and all that. The kind of environment in which most of the films are shot is in an environment of opulence, grandiose mansions, high-end cars will be parked in here, and then you see the big men with very, very expensive wines and what have you, in all those films and all that. Want to live up to that expectation. The children want to live up to that expectation. Often, too, with due respect, and you will not believe it, those who actually should sanction some of these activities are those who should make sure in terms of the law enforcement agencies and other. You will not believe even the lawmaker. They are also patrons of some of these ritual activities. You will find out, go and check. Most time when an herbalist is arrested for having carried out one ritual or the other and what have you, hardly will you see the security men subject him to any torture, any human treatment. Furthermore, the kind of reference that they give to them is different from the other people who might have participated with them, simply because they also patronize these people. And even if they don't patronize, immediately they are arrested. The big people, politicians and businessmen who patronize these people will rush in there to start talking to the security people and all that. Because if push gets to shove, tendencies are that messages will get out that this herbalists or whatever, as in the past, also done some of these ritual things for these politicians, prominent men and all that. So they quickly shut it down and what have you. And even too, the security people are not let out. Look at what happened not too long ago, which was in the paper, and which the DSS have not refuted. They were going to Sunday Igboho's out. They went with an herbalist. They went with a marabut, and then also a Christian prophet. So if people at that level patronize this kind of people and all that, what you are indirectly encouraging is there's a culture of impunity that even when they do carry out or they do some of these things and all that, the possibility that they will ever be punished for it is there because they have some safeguards, they can always get some refuge or some protection from some of these big people, and also the security people who patronizes these people when they are in need of them for whatever reasons or the other. Two, unfortunately, our law does not even recognize those things because we borrow the English common law, even though the judge that will say it doesn't exist himself probably also patronizes this thing. The water and the other thing who also would I also know that these things in reality exist. And under our law, what is not expressly stated as a crime cannot be diligently prosecuted and sanctioned. At worst, when these things happen and other, the people will be taken to court by the DPP for kidnapping and then murder, which is a capital offense under the law. But the bottom line is that the value system is breaking down totally and completely. And also, human lives no longer have value in terms of even the capacity of the government to protect lives and property. When you open the newspaper on a daily basis, you listen to radio, and then you see the social media, and then you listen to what do you see in there? 10, 20 people have been massacred. And then we carry on as a nation, as if human life no longer, as if human lives are, as if human beings are mere chicken that can be dispensed with. So until we begin to reorientate ourselves, until we begin to revisit some of these values, until we begin to acculturate our people, until we begin to tell the people in authority to stop giving support, because the people in authority also give logistic support and fund court activities. In fact, the beginning of this rabid courtism among the youth was promoted by the military. In the past, the campuses, the universities, the schools and all that used to be dominated by progressive elements, radical elements, Marxist elements and all that. And somebody wrote a policy paper to government and said, look, until you have rooted out all these radical student unionism, Marxists and what have you from the campuses, sack the lecturers and all that, and you begin to sponsor and promote some of these cult groups and some of these Owambe social clubs and all that, we are never going to see peace on the campuses. And that was when you find out the military sacked most of the radical lecturers and started funding the cult groups on the campuses and also empowering them materially. In fact, it's degenerated to a level in which a vice chancellor in the southwest, in one of the southwestern universities, bought AK-47 for some people, funded them, and encouraged them to go and kill a fellow student so as to be able to drive out all the radical elements away from the school so that he could have peace to rule the university or manage the university the way he so desires. So all these things have consequences. When you buy car for these people, when they intimidate girls, harass lecturers, and all that, and there are no sanctions, what do you expect? Students will bring expensive cars to school, nobody will ask them questions. See what happened on social media not too long ago, some IN boys were said to have graduated, and all of them came to the school with their very expensive cars
and they're supposed to be students.
And they're supposed to, what came out of it? The police, the DSS, and all the other security agencies turned a blind eye, simply because some of them or one of them might even have been on the payroll of some of these security agencies. They get protection, they pay protection money.
Wow, that's a lot of history to digest. So, how
Solomon,
did we get to this?
Yes, I think my approach to your question will be very simple. Ritual killing is on the increase in the society, Nigerian society, because of the craze for wealth. Virtually all young men of today would like to be millionaires, billionaires overnight without working for them, for that wealth. And the society does nothing. The society does, right from the home, the family unit is the beginning of every society. That is where you get your first training. That's where you get your first contact with a lot, what is good and what is bad. But in Nigeria today, nobody questions you when you make sudden wealth. Unlike in some other societies, like in Great Britain. In Britain, we have what is known as the Unexplained Wealth Act. Unexplained Wealth Act exists in the UK. If in UK, for instance, you are a cleaner or you're a scavenger, you are a janitor, a gate man, overnight you are seen with a type of property like a car, a Rover or whatever. The next moment you see a policeman, some security agents will approach you. My friend, you have this car now. The worth of this car is about £10,000. How did you come about purchasing this? They will start by demanding your tax rate. How much have you paid for tax to the authorities? How did you source this money?
And that is
but in Nigeria, we are lacking,
yes.
We lack this type of law in Nigeria so far. So all Nigerians...
Because some of the lawmakers also have unexplained wealth.
Yes,
Exactly.
yes. You see a boy in secondary school or the university driving a car. What is he doing? What is his job? What is his profession? How does he earn his money? Nobody will ask that question. They will begin to clap for him and say he has arrived. So for the House of Reps to have thought about this, is it a motion or whatever, asking on calling on the government to declare a national emergency on ritual killing, I think it is a step in the right direction. That shows that they are following the trend of what is happening in the country. And by declaring a state of emergency on ritual killing, they are, in other words, saying that the government should take steps to deal with, because when you say state of emergency, not the type of state of emergency we had when Chief Obasanjo was the president. No, that's a different type of emergency. There are two classes of emergency. You have the martial law, that is when a state of emergency is imposed on a country or on a part of the country. No, this one is just a temporary system of rules to deal with an extremely dangerous or difficult situation. Like we have now. Every day it is a boy killing a girl. I've not heard about girls killing boys so far. So far, it's been boys. Most of the time, it's boys killing girls. So we need a drastic type of action to counter this. And when you talk about state of emergency, you have in mind some rules and regulations that will give you the authority to deal with this dangerous or difficult situation like we have in our hands now.
So the big question now is, why are they shifting the responsibility to the federal government? Can't they make a piece of legislation, like you just said, in the UK, unexplained wealth
Act.
So why can't they do that? Why do they have to look on the federal government for a state of emergency when they can legislate?
I think I agree with you honestly, because the lawmakers are to make laws.
Exactly.
And when you talk about state of emergency on a particular, you might have a state of emergency because of flooding, because of earthquake, because of some other, but this one now is regards to is with regards to ritual killings. I think the initiative should have started the action by promulgating or passing some laws in the National Assembly that will now give government the power to act. For instance, we have to, like in Lagos State now, we have special offenses courts. In Lagos State today, as a husband, you don't beat your wife anyhow. You don't maltreat your housemaid, your houseboy, and there are special courts to try them. So I think that the National Assembly should have passed a law that will enable every state in the Federation to have special powers to deal with these ritual killings. I think you are right in saying that they shouldn't have been pushing it. It appears they are pushing it to the government instead of initiating laws.
Because the executives cannot do much.
No,
there is no law
a law can be
for
initiated.
them to back it up. If there is no law to back it up, the executive can't do much, because the
executive can also initiate
Mr. Solomon,
the can initiate laws.
Yes, all of them can do it. Even individual can initiate a bill. To be passed into law that will eventually explain. You merely need to go through your representatives in any of these houses or assembly and other. But you have said it all. How many of the politicians can really explain to us the origin of their wealth? So if they themselves cannot explain the origin of their wealth, they will be
how would they have the courage
to pass those things? I recollect when the EFCC Act was going to be passed. Aton Zeribe, a very brilliant, intelligent man, he called the attention of his colleagues in the Senate to the law, to the bill which Obasanjo brought with regards to EFCC and ICC. He said, look, are you people fools? This man is bringing a law that will eventually be used against you people. And you people are enthusiastic to begin to pass it into law. Good luck to them if they have not seen the dangers of what that law portends. And then all of them started backsliding and what have you, until Obasanjo in his characteristic manner begin to muzzle them and do some other things to really get that bill passed into law. So it all boils down to what we are saying. If the head is rotting, every other process of the body will get corrupt as well. We are rotting from the bottom from the top to the bottom. And those who are leaders who should show good example as the worst exemplars that you can find around us.
So let's take a look at this from religious point of view now. You call places like Britain or UK, a lot of those other countries, they have two major religions that are recognized, the Christian and the Muslim. Now, here in Africa, using Nigeria as a point of reference, we recognize three: Christian, Muslim, and the traditional worship. And for a country like Nigeria, the traditional worship is still very much strong. So I'm trying to look for how to phrase this country. So, question: is there any religious connotation to it? Because we know that in the traditional sense of it, ritual killing isn't exactly against the law. But unfortunately, it looks like our constitution, in as much as generally these three religions are recognized, and in the constitution, of course, the traditional religion too is recognized, but some of the dark side of this religion is not in the constitution, where corporates can face the law. Use this ritual killing now as example. Let's say ritual killing that has to do with animal, that's a different ball game, even though in some other country where they have good animal legislation, it will be a crime. But in a country like ours, we don't have animal legislation as it were. So but I know it is a thin line between animal ritual killing and human ritual killing. But when there is no law to streamline that, how do we do that? How do we prosecute?
Just like I said, we borrowed this English common law, and that is what we've been practicing. And the English common law doesn't recognize some of these things. For them, it was mere voodoo which they try as much as possible.
Which was in the 12th century or something, outdated.
Which they try to discourage and all that. And we as a people too have also done a very great disservice to our people by living in self-denial. You will recollect that when I was making my analysis, I pointed out that even the judge who would sit over this judgment knows that these things exist, but they would pretend as if they don't know it exists. The policeman, the whatever, the politicians who patronize also the babalawo and whatever, we all pretend as if some of these things, the churches and even the mosque and all that, we all pretend that some of these things don't exist. So if you pretend that a thing doesn't exist, how do you now begin to legislate against it? It is for us to own up to the reality that this thing is part and parcel of all. And despite several centuries of suppression, not just by the colonial masters, but also by the different religions, foreign borrowed religions like Islam and Christianity, these things have refused to die away because it's been part and parcel of it. It's something that we have inherited from our forefathers. And I'm not seeing it going away for a long time. Those who tell you that all this ritual for making money doesn't exist, and it cannot make you as rich as Aliko Dangote or Tedola, it is because they have never had the opportunity to see some of these things in practice. If you had lived in the village, in the traditional setting, with your grandparents who are traditionalists and all that, you will realize that these things are really efficacious. The mere reason that, the simple reason that I can identify that it may not turn you to a man as rich as Aliko Dangote or Tedola is simply because when people engage in this ritual money-making exercises and all that, they do it for the purpose of enjoying themselves and for self-aggrandizement. It is not to empower people to create jobs, because they know there are certain consequences or punishment that they alone would be visited with. So why would you now create, be the one to take punishment for certain things and then begin to now allow other people to enjoy whatever comforts and everything that goes with it? But the truth of the matter is that these things exist, and if it were, people would have recognized it. And even institutions like the Institute of African Studies and all that, the obas in the different societies and all that, would have found a way to bring this into the mainstream, so that the ugly aspect of it that we begin to see today, you find a way to really begin to do away with those things and then to promote the most positive aspect of it. But rather than do that, we simply say, no, it doesn't exist, and then, even though on a daily basis, most of our people see patronize this thing.
Okay, you wanted to say something?
Yes, I wanted to say that, as a matter of fact, there's no religion, whether Christianity, Islam, or traditional religion, that supports killing of fellow human beings for you to be rich or to become rich or acquire wealth. There's none of them. Christianity, Islam, and traditional religion, there's none of them, as a matter of fact, that supports killing fellow human beings to make you rich or to make you wealthy. It does not exist. Ritual by itself is not an offense. What is ritual after all? Ritual is we do a set of fixed actions you perform sometimes, or even what you speak in a ceremony. That is ritual. So looking at the definition of ritual per se is not offensive. But when you add killing of fellow human beings as part of the ritual, that is when we have a problem. You see? So it is for the law-making body to promulgate some laws that will enable the government, like the police and security agencies, to have more power in dealing with people accused of ritual killings. Now, for instance,
before we go ahead,
no,
he has not finished. Okay.
No, go ahead. Let me.
Okay, I was just going to interject. Maybe you might be able to enlighten us a little. When you check the statistics of most of the people who have been apprehended for carrying out these ritual killings for certain persons, for them to be rich and all that,
yes,
they are mostly people who practice Islamic religion, or who are even imams and powerful persons, alfas and whatever, and also pastors. The lady was killed in Ikire in Osun State and all that. Was it not a pastor?
That was where I was getting to, because when it comes to religion in this country, it's like religion is untouchable.
Very sensitive.
Very highly sensitive topic, exactly.
Yes.
So it looks like most of the lawmakers or the government, as it were, shy away from it. And every religion have its dark side. Even the Christianity have a dark side. Islam religion have a dark side. You know, the extent when radical Islam, you know, the extreme Islam came, we all looked at it like a child's play until it became a very global thing. That's for the Islamic, you know, religion. We have the dark side of the Christian, where the Bible, you know, people have taken the Bible and have turned it upside down. The Bible can easily be interpreted to suit, especially for a country like ours that have multiple, you know, denominations, and they can give you Bible version, you know, to justify their acts. Like, you know, the one you said, you know, like people can take that of Abraham wanting to sacrifice his son as a Bible passage to justify ritual killing in the name of Christianity. It is time the government tried to take a closer look at religion holistically and try to see where we can regulate. Now, in the past, we've talked about regulating religion, and of course, there was a lot of outcry from religious leaders, from clergymen.
There's a case in court now.
Exactly.
With regards to that.
So where a lot of pastors and imams come to, you know, to kick against it, but how do we control the dark side of this religion now is where we're talking about, because it's easy for us to criticize the traditionalists because it is now, but a lot of Christians, we've had cases of, you know, pastors being arrested because they saw humans call in the altar. You know, so how do religion be regulated without exactly causing mayhem? Because as I've said before, religion is untouchable in this country. It's a very sensitive matter.
Yeah, I think it has to do with political will. In fact, apart from corruption, I would want to hazard a guess that religion is about the second most serious challenge
we have
in this country. If we are able to regulate religion, most of the challenges and problems that we have will be reduced. The thing to do really is very, very simple. You require political courage, but most times the political will is never there. And I will give you two instances. I think it was under Jonathan when the NSTIF in the central bank said most of the GOs and the people who have served
a certain years should retire.
They should retire or do 10 years and then go home. And that the accounts of most of these religious bodies
need to be looked into
and all that. And they kicked. And then the government of the day shied away or abandoned that direction. They even disbanded that committee, which is a government agency, I mean, set up by law. In most countries of the world, just like he said, in Britain, in America, and some of these other places, and all, there are boards that regulate religious activity. In fact, of which all these religious bodies must file returns on an annual basis. And the law is also there here. It's only we are not enforcing or complying, because all these religious organizations are registered under Part C, I think, of the Company and Allied Matters Act. And just as it's registered, so it also gives you responsibility and also things that you must do on an annual basis for you to be able to keep your certificate of registration. Have we had the courage to enforce those things that the law have compelled all these religious bodies to do? The answer is no. Even the companies too, they are supposed to file annual return. How many companies in Nigeria file their annual return on a yearly basis? A time they said that, look, if a company is dormant and they've not been filing their annual returns and other, they're going to strike them off from the list of registered companies in Nigeria. What happened? The big people in the society, the politicians, the civil servants and all that, who most times register this company and use it to take contracts, even when they are still in government, kicked against it, and then they spoke to Mr. Perry and said, look, it is us that you want to destroy if you go ahead with this program of striking off list of dormant companies from from the register of companies in Nigeria. That is one. You also see immediately the newcomer, which also said, look, you'll be filing return, we want you to do this and that and all that. The church, for example, and I don't know whether the Muslims are also part of that, they've gone to court. The case is still in court. Now the general officer said, look, I established this church, and whatever I do there is not subject to any scrutiny by any government agencies or any power under the sun and all that. Forgetting that most of the tithes and offerings that comes into the church come from the public. It's not as if the pastor has invented any machine or any drug or anything that is generating special income for him or running a special business. It is people's salaries, it is people's investment in companies, their shares, it is their tithe and offerings and all that are put together. So if you get money from the public and all that, why are you not going to account for it? But they said no. They have gone to court now to challenge that capital. So the onus is, if people like President Muhammad Buhari, you even say he's a very courageous person, he's a no-nonsense military general and all that, he's been not been too aggressive in implementing that aspect.
I think it will be unfair for us to heap all the blame on religious bodies. It's very unfair for us to heap all the blame. I think it's a societal responsibility. The society as a whole.
But the religious body also, they are part of the society.
Yeah, they are part of the, I agree, they are just a segment of the society. Society starts from the family.
Nigeria is not a segment, because Nigeria is a very religious country, either one of the three religions. So it's not a segment of the society.
Let us begin from the family onwards. The family, every Nigerian, you see something going wrong, you go and report to the authority. I go back to Britain once again. In Britain, the way they give information to security agencies, we don't do it in this country. Unless we learn that.
Is it even functioning?
It's not functioning.
If you do it, you're endangering your life. Before you even leave the police station, where you went to report,
do you know?
They would have leaked out the information that Mr. So or Mrs. So have come to give us information.
Furthermore,
in regard to activities. And there is no protection for most of these victims or for witnesses under our law.
Most importantly, we should de-emphasize wealth. We should de-emphasize wealth. But the way we are going in this country, do you know that these Yahoo boys, they pay some security agencies and agents. Some of them move with escorts provided by security agencies. Yes. Maybe, and they pay them with the consent and the authority of the superiors. Such a thing should not happen. We have a lot of societal